Dr. Mashelkar, Professor Doipade, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very great honor for me to be here during this Congress when my book on Sushruta is being released by Dr. Mashelkar. For 3 decades, I was in the fast lane of cardiac surgery. And some 6 or 7 years ago, I shifted to the slow lane. And in this slow lane, I didn't have to worry about traffic jams. I didn't have to worry about people overtaking me or trying to overtake somebody else. And the result was a very joyous companionship with Ayurveda. And this journey has, what has it really given me? I would say that in the words of Tulsidas, Swanta Sukha, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. That is what it has given me. It has also given me interesting discoveries for myself. For example, in Charaka's time, doing what I call archaeoepidemiology. If you simply look at the number of, if you count the references Charaka makes to various diseases, and the number of references is an index of the load of that disease in the community. Now there you find that in Charaka's India, in the 1st century AD, there was no smallpox, at least in northwest India. When Dhritabala revised Charaka Samhita, 4th century, again there was no smallpox. But by the time Madhavanidhana came, smallpox was rampant in India. This is an interesting, but for me a very interesting observation. Similarly, when I changed to Sushruta Samhita, Sushruta talks about a number of surgical procedures. He deals extremely well with fractures and dislocations, for example. Most of those procedures we still follow. He talks about lacerations, suturing. He talks about fistula in ano. He talks about cystolithotomy, perineal cystolithotomy, number of operations. He talks about a large number of surgical instruments, 100 blunt instruments and 20 sharp instruments. And then he adds, more important than all these instruments is your own hand. That is the best instrument. Now in the same Sushruta, he doesn't talk about refining of the skull. But you find in Buddha's time, Buddha's physician Jivaka, he was doing refining of the skull. So undoubtedly the progress was being made. It was not a full stop. But somewhere later, perhaps in the early years of the Christian era, the whole picture changed. Because Sushruta was an acharya living in Banaras, respected, revered as an acharya. But the craft that he developed, the science he developed, by about the 5th or 6th century AD, it was in decline. In fact, none of these procedures were being done by established Ayurvedic Vaidyas, because all these where you dirty your hand, they were looked down upon. Now this is a mystery. I have not been able to find an answer, an adequate answer for this. So for me it has been a voyage of discovery which has given me a lot of enjoyment. When my book on Charaka was released in 2003, and Dr. Mashelkar, he is one of our most distinguished scientists and a dear friend of mine, he was the person who received the book from Dr. Murali Manohar Joshi in Delhi. Now today, 3 years later, at that time the publishers, Orient Longman, they told me that they estimated the life of the book to be about a year. It is a serious book. If it lasts for a year, it is an achievement. But in actual fact, it went through 3 impressions. It has had a Malayalam translation, and today I heard the book is still being sold. So today, Dr. Mashelkar, who received the book, he is releasing the Sushruta Samhita. So I'm quite certain that this book will have a better future than the Charakas. For me, this occasion I'm thrice honored. First of all, the book is being released by Dr. Mashelkar. I don't have to tell this audience about him. He's an extraordinary individual, a gifted scientist, a man of many parts whom I have admired for many years. To have the book released by him is a great privilege. Secondly, it is being released before a large, distinguished Ayurvedic audience, scholars, practitioners, experts. That is another great privilege. And the third privilege, this is happening in Pune. Pune is another term for, what shall I say, Punya Bhumi. It actually comes from Punya Bhumi, Pune. So in this Punya Bhumi, the book is being released in a city which has stood for the best cultural traditions of India. So in every way, I'm privileged, I'm honored, I'm extremely thankful to Dr. Mashelkar, Dr. Doipade, and all of you for being present on this occasion. Thank you.
May I now request Dr. Mashelkar to release the book. May I now request Honorable Dr. Mashelkar to express his thoughts.
Dr. Valyathan, Dr. Doipade, and ladies and gentlemen, this is the third time I'm occupying the stage, performing different roles, I suppose, and it's a special privilege. Special privilege, once again, like what Professor Valyathan said, we form a mutual admiration society. I hold him in the highest possible regard. We know him as a great scholar, a great surgeon, a great medical investigator, a great researcher, above all, a great human being, and a great science leader. It is rather remarkable. I was saying yesterday while standing here, Professor Valyathan, that how modern scientists have had a disdain for our traditional wisdom, traditional knowledge, our great art of healing, Ayurveda and so on, somehow or the other. But ladies and gentlemen, I must say that there are two consecutive presidents of Indian National Science Academy. Professor Valyathan, and I just took over from him as a president of Indian National Science Academy. We have had a break in terms of being two presidents who have had tremendous respect and tremendous championship of great Ayurveda and our great traditions. So that's, I would say, a refreshing change of the new way things are going to move. I've known Professor Valyathan for almost 3 decades now, slightly less than 3 decades. When he was the director of Sri Chitra Tirunal Medical Center, I remember I was on the governing board, got to know him in late 70s. And as he very rightly said, when he moved into his other phase of life, the third act of life, as many times we say, he has done things which are completely different, including learning Sanskrit to learn these texts and understand them. Yesterday, at around 10:30 at night, this book was delivered to me, and it's quite a thick book, by the way. It's not a thin book. And believe me, I got up at 5 in the morning today, and from 5 to 8 for 3 hours, I have read this book. I cannot say that I have finished this book. I cannot say that I have fully comprehended this book. But let me assure you, I have enjoyed it immensely. And can I tell you, Professor Valyathan, at the end, around 8 o'clock, my son and wife came down, and I told them I feel proud to be an Indian once more. I mean, it's amazing, when you read this book. And I do hope that this book will not only meet the success of Legacy of Charaka that you talked about, and yes, this is true, 3 years ago, I was very much there on the dais, and At that time, I did receive the copy from Professor Murli Manoj Joshi when it was released, and it has been a grand success, and I have no doubt that this will be even a grander success. Let me just make 2 or 3 points. I'm not going to give a long lecture on what I have understood of this book. No, that is not the purpose. What I'm going to say is that there are a couple of things that I saw in this book which touched me and looked up so appropriate. For example, Sushruta's wisdom has been quoted in this, and one of the things he says is ekam shastramadhyano na vidya shastram nishchayam tasmad bhaushrutah shastram vijaniya chikitsakaha. Meaning, by mastering one branch of science, a person does not comprehend science. A physician should broaden his understanding by the study of many disciplines. And you know, Professor Valyathan is a living example of that. I have seen him as president of Indian National Science Academy, as someone that we have revered, and the way he has brought in new insights. I think many people would have read what Sushruta has written, Sushruta Samhita, but you know, there is a very interesting definition of an innovator. They say innovator is one who sees what everybody else sees, but thinks of what nobody else thinks. And I believe what Professor Valyathan has done here is to give a new insight. Probably also because he's a surgeon, by the way. I think you do have an unfair advantage over sort of most of us when we read Sushruta Samhita, but you have used this to a great advantage. The other thing, which is again Sushruta's wisdom, it says, Tasmanam timata nityam nana shastrartha darshina sarvamulyam gadartham shastramagam buddhina. In a sense, it says ancient texts of great profundity should be studied by the wise, analytically, constantly, and devotedly, after having learned the principles of other disciplines. Now, Professor Valyathan, you satisfy all this. I've already said how you have studied the principles and mastered the principles of other disciplines. But he also fits the description of a wise scholar, a deep scholar, who has learned and practiced and excelled in the principles of other disciplines. So you do find that his study is most analytical, most devoted, as Sushruta demands. And what he has also done, as I said, went out of the way to learn Sanskrit and to understand the original beauty and the nuances of the original text. So I would say, Professor Valyathan, this is your great gift to us as Indians. And I would say to the humanity, because I don't think this book is going to lie on the shelves of Indians. It is going to go all over the world. I would like to congratulate the publishers for doing such a splendid job. The last point I want to make, and then I will close, is the following. It is coincidental that during last 4 days, I have been giving lectures. One was in Malaysia, one was in Bombay, one was here, and I'm speaking today. This is not a lecture, but sort of some discourse. Now, I remember speaking day before yesterday in Bombay, and this had to do with innovation. And because, you know, and this was to the corporate world, and I wanted to tell the corporate world, because these were all businessmen, by the way, that when they talk about innovation, you know, nowadays innovation has become a buzzword. They say innovation-led competitiveness, innovation-led growth, innovation-led inclusion, as though they have discovered this for the first time. So I will tell you what I read out to them, basically. I said India was a leader in innovation several centuries ago. Indeed, since the Indus Valley civilization of about 5,000 years ago, innovation has been the part of the Indian culture and the basis of its civilization. Our innovations were diverse and pioneering. They included remarkable town planning, the use of standardized burnt bricks for dwelling houses and interlinked drainage systems, They included wheel-turned ceramics and solid-wheel cars. The dockyard at Lodha is regarded as the largest maritime structure ever built by a Bronze Age community. The discovery of zero and the decimal place value system by Indians dates back to the Vedic period. Our pioneering work in algebra, trigonometry, and geometry was truly outstanding. Indian innovations in medicine, especially in Ayurveda, not only aimed at the cure of diseases, but more importantly, on the preservation of health. The innovations in surgery, and this refers to this, included pioneering efforts in laparotomy, lithotomy, and plastic surgery, etc. I say this. And then I added something, by the way. In spite of this great heritage and record of accomplishments, why did India fall behind in the ensuing centuries? When the scientific and industrial revolutions took place in the West a few hundred years ago, there was a period of stagnation in India. Lack of development over this period was a result of hierarchical approach, irrational subjective thinking, and build-up of superstitions and superficial ritualism. The earlier great traditions were allowed to decay. A highly feudalistic structure of society developed. That is how the decay actually took place. And what struck me, Professor Valyathan, when I was reading this book in the morning, that you bring out this. This is the first time I read this, by the way. I was not aware of this. And I do want to read this for you, because he talks about Sushruta's legacy and how that legacy was allowed to decay in the sort of 7th century, how it vanished. How in 19th century, for example, when surgery reappeared in India from Europe, not a mention was made of our earlier sort of heritage, and you painfully report that. But there is something striking that he reports, which I want to bring out to you because it is so relevant today. He says there, unfortunately, the decadence in surgery and sciences was matched by growth of conceit, which reached monumental proportions by 11th century. Al-Biruni's eyewitness account is revealing. He says, Hindus believe that there is no country but theirs, no nation like theirs, no king like theirs, no religion like theirs, no science like theirs. They are haughty, foolish, etc., etc. And then it says that the haughtiness is such that if you tell them of any science or scholar in Khorasan or Persis, they will think you to be an ignorant and a liar. If they traveled and mixed with other nations, they would soon change their mind, for their ancestors were not as narrow-minded as the present generation is. Before 11th century, one is talking about, and you are referring to the 11th century. And then Professor Valyathan says, nothing could destroy the remaining spark of life in surgery more than the cancerous growth of conceit, which fed up misconceptions and intellectual rubbish. And so on. I think the entire issue is that one is standing at a point in time in history where this openness, and I quoted Gandhi yesterday about the cultures and the winds sort of going, is going to be even more and more critical for us than ever before. And that's why I was very happy to see these fresh winds blowing, and today's newspaper reports are full of how one is talking in terms of integration. And amazingly, yesterday, by the way, we talked about this word Ayurvedic biology, and Professor Valyathan just in the morning presented to me this Towards Ayurvedic Biology, a document that has been brought out by whom? By Indian Academy of Sciences, by traditional scientists. I believe this is a fantastic change. This is a fantastic change in terms of this opening up. And therefore, I'm absolutely delighted that we have such a scholarly book by such a great individual who himself has developed these, what shall I say, this great legacy himself. I have absolutely no doubt that this book will be important for historians of science, because there's a history of science written up there. Actually, how Sushruta builds this great legacy and how it was allowed to die, actually, and how, as you very rightly said, Professor Doifode, how we can have a resurgence of that. It will be important for students of Ayurveda as they study it, because the amazing detail in which this book goes, is remarkable. This will be of great interest to modern medicine, to biologists, and equally importantly to social scientists. I have absolutely no doubt that this book will be a grand success. And as you rightly said, Professor Valyathan, this great event with this great audience in this great Pune, you could not have done better. Thank you very much.